ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिः यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैर्तुष्टुवांसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नः इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नः तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः देवं नारायणं नत्वा सर्वदोषविवर्जितं परिपूर्णं गुरुंश्चान् गीतार्थं वक्ष्यामि लेशतः. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, friends, for part C of chapter 8. Over to Anandji.
Thank you, Madhuji. Am I the co-host?
Yeah, you should be able to share. Let me come out. Yeah. Yeah, you should be able to share your slides. Yeah, it looks fine.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shri Krishnaya Namaha. So welcome to the part C of Akshara Brahma Yoga, the Gita Chinthana. A while ago, we have done part A and part B of chapter 8. So today, part A and part B was followed by Dr. Pratush Prasad, our expert speaker, external speaker. And today we will try and cover the remaining verses of chapter 8. So, because it has been a while, I thought it is best to have a quick recap. I had done this recap a couple of times, so I thought it would be interesting to make it a bit interactive. And I would like your help because this has been repeated a few times. So chapter 8, as we have done the Chinthana, it started off with a number of questions by Arjuna. The questions were, Kim Tad Brahma, what is Brahman, what is Adhyatman, Kim Karma, Kim Adhibhuta, what is Adhidaiva, and what is Adhiyagna. So what I have done here is I've made it a bit interactive. On the left side, you will see all the questions from Arjuna to Krishna in Sanskrit. On the right side, there are answers in Sanskrit. Because we have done this, I would like your help to match these, reference to context. So let me start off with the first question. Kim Tad Brahma? Who is going to answer that? On the right side, there are all answers. It's not open to Madhuji. Okay, rest of them. Kim Tad Brahma? What is the answer on the right side?
Aksharam Brahma Paramam.
Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Let us see if that is the right answer. That is the right answer. So Brahma is Parama Akshara. We spoke a lot about this. Brahma is Parama Akshara, and we went into details of who that Brahman is, Janmadhyasayataha, the eightfold cosmic dispensation. We discussed a lot, so I won't repeat that again. So the next question is, Kim Adhyatmam? Kim Adhyatmam?
Swabhavo
Adhyatma Uchate. Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchate. Adhyatma means it's all the study of the soul. The soul and the tools which help the soul, the body, mind, conscience, etc., etc. And the innate nature of the soul. Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchate. Kim Karma Purushottama? Kim Karma Purushottama? What is the karma of that Brahman? What is the divine karma of that Brahman? Anybody, please? I'll give the answer. It is
Bhuta Bhavo Bhavatkaro.
Bhuta Bhavo Udbhavakara Visarga Karma Sangnitaha. Well done. Well done. Well said. So it is the creation of Bhuta and Bhava, sentient and insentient things. And Udbhava is the creation. Visarga is the grand creation. And that is, we spoke a lot about that. Adhibhutam chakim proktam. Adhibhuta. What is Adhibhuta? Answers are all on the right side.
Adhibhutam
Taro Bhavaha.
Adibhutam Ksharobhava. Adibhutam is the principal five elements, the Panchabhutas, which could be Brahmanda, which could be Pindanda, isn't it? Adidhaivam kimuchyate. Who are the Adidhaiva?
पुरुषः
Purushascha Adidhaivatam. Adidhaiva is they're all the Abhimani Devatas who are helping the soul in the body. Adhiyagnyam katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana. So there is only one answer left. So I'll reveal that adhiyagnya ahamevatra atra dehe. Adhiyagnya ahameva atra dehe, which means I am the adhiyagnya in this deha, in this body. That is antaryami rupa of the Bhagavan. Thank you very much for all your help, and probably I'll have one more of this session, not more than that. So then we moved on to Prayana Kalecha Katham Gneyosi Niyatatmabihi. Why should we remember you during the Prayana Kala? Prayana Kala, we said, at the time of death, at the time of leaving this body. And the God said, if you are remembering me at the time of the death, you will attain me, Bhavam. He also said, always remember me and do your duty with mind and intellect surrendered to me, and you will attain me. So the important ideas in those three verses were Madbhavam, Tadbhavam, and Mamanuspara. Again, we have spoken a lot about this, so I'll be very quick in recapping this. Madbhavam means you will attain me, you will come to my abode. Madbhavam, and you will get that bhava of me, like bliss and no dukkha according to your innate capacity. It's never equivalent to what the Lord has. And then tadbhava, we spoke a lot about this, that abhyasa, and that abhyasa should become a habit, and that tadbhava means being deeply immersed in that practice, deeply immersed by mind. And anusmara, mam smara is remember me, mam anusmara is think about me as described in the Vedas, as per Vedas. So then we had this tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. You remember me entire life, because the whole life should become God pervaded, because you don't know when you are going to die. The timing of death is not predictable. So at this juncture, it reminds me of a beautiful story from Mahabharata. After the Kurukshetra war, in Hastinapura, one fine day when Dharmaraja was the emperor of India, a Brahmin comes and he is doing a yaga. He wants some funding. So he comes and he meets Dharmaraja and asks for some funds. But Dharmaraja is very busy in a meeting. He says, come back tomorrow. He's a bit dejected, and on his way back, the poor Brahmin, he meets Bhimasena. And Bhimasena asks him, what happened? Why are you so disappointed? He says, I'm doing this yaga and I'm in urgent need of money. So please, I need some help. So Bhimasena gives him all the money and all his necklaces, whatever he wants. And the Brahmin goes happily. What Bhimasena does then is he goes to the outside of the palace, where there's a big drum there. It's depicted in the picture. The drum is to be stuck when something astonishing happens. So Bhimasena goes and strikes the drum, and Dharmaraja is amazed as to what has happened. What is that great thing which has happened? He comes running and he asks Bhimasena, what is that? What is your astonishment that you're beating these drums? Bhimasena says, today I have come to know from my brother, yourself, that you are going to live for another 24 hours. That is an astonishing news for me. So how come you are so sure that you're going to live by tomorrow? So the message there is the timing of the death is not predictable. So this story tells us that when you do dharma karyas or something, you have to do it on the spot. Do not postpone it, because you do not know whether you're going to live the next day or not. So let's move on to the next one. Then there was a question about how should we know, what should we do to know the God at the time of death? And what is that we should contemplate on? So we had this verse where we discussed a lot about Abhyasa Yoga. Na anyagamina and anuchintayan. Abhyasa, we said practice is not only practice, it's a habit, it should become habit. And this abhyasa comes a number of times in Bhagavad Gita just to emphasize the importance of that word abhyasa. Like in 12th chapter, it comes up, abhyasa yogena tataha mamichhaptum dhananjaya. In 6th chapter, it comes where Krishna says to Arjun, abhyasena kaunteya vairagyena cha hriyate. So this abhyasa comes very commonly in Bhagavad Gita. Na anyagamina means without deviation. Chintayan, remembrance. Anuchintayan, constant remembers as per Vedas. So the next one was about the 8 divine attributes of the Lord which one should think. Kavim, Puranam, Manushasitaram, Manor, Aniyams, Anusmaredhyaha, Sarvasya Dhataram, Achintya Rupam, Aditya Varnam, Tamasah Parastat. Again, I have an interactive quiz here because these are the 8 attributes of the Lord which we should remember. So on the left side, I have all the attributes, and on the right side, I have the meanings of them in English. So let's start quickly so that we can move on. Kavim, what does Kavim mean? Kavim,
Omniscient.
omniscient. Thank you, Srikanji.
This is cheating, though.
Puranam, Puranam. Kavim Puranam.
Anadi and has no
Thank
beginning.
you, Saptarji. Anadi and has no beginning. Anushasitaram. Shasitaram.
Governs
the
the
entire
entire
universe.
universe.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Anur Aniyams. Anur is atom.
Smaller than smallest.
Smaller than the smallest. Sarvasya Dhataram. Sarvasya, all.
Support of all.
Supports all static and dynamic objects.
Fantastic. Achintya Rupam. This should be easy.
Inconceivable divine form.
Inconceivable divine form. Thank you very much. Aditya Varnam.
Radiance and
Brilliance and
splendor.
splendor.
And there's the last one. Tamasah Parastat. Beyond darkness and ignorance. Okay, so Srikanji took us further in chapter 8 about the 2 types of people. One is a yogic, one who are involved in the yogic practice, who are called Vayujayis, who are very good in their yoga and control of the breath, pranayama. So what practices they do for the jiva to exit the body? They do it with manasachalena, with focused mind, bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva, which means with utmost devotion and yogic power. Then they hold their life breath, prana, in the forehead between the eyebrows, bhruvor madhe, pranam aveshya samyaka. And Sarvadvarani Sanyamya, all the gates closed, the Navadwari, all the gates closed, Mano, Hrudi, Nirudhyacha. They meditate on the God form, divine form of the God as Lord, as Hrudi. And then this was for the yogis who are good at pranayama. For others, Lord Krishna introduced the concept of bhakti here, and he said, those who are continuously meditating on me, Nitya Yuktasya, with their minds very well controlled, it is easy for them to attain. Tasyaham sulabha partha. Then we had Shushrutji talking about various abodes, the material realms, and Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is beyond the material worlds, beyond the material realms, trans-empirical plane. So when the soul exits the body, it can go to either Vaikuntha or to a number of lokas. So Brahma Bhuvana Lokaha Punaravartino Arjuna. If the soul goes to Satyaloka or Brahma Loka, then there is a guarantee that they will reach Vaikuntha at the end of Brahma's tenure. But for all those lokas, which they reach below the Satyaloka, they ultimately return to the cycle of births and deaths. Whereas if they reach Vaikuntha, there is no return, there is no punarjanma. And when you reach Vaikuntha, there is only bliss there is no dukkhalaya. All these concepts came in those verses. Vaikuntha is eternal, whereas the rest of them are material lokas, they are perishable. So this is what Shoshodji brought out very nicely, and he also discussed in greater detail about the cycle of creation which Lord does. And to get a concept of that creation cycle and the duration it takes, we discussed about the yugas, the mahayugas, the manmantras, the kalpas, and then what is one day of Lord Brahma, and then we discussed what is the lifespan of Brahma, and we showed that it is about 311 trillion human years. But we said for Lord, this amount of time is just a moment, just a blink of an eye. Then we discussed about the creation. How does the creation happen? Avyaktat vyaktaya sarvaha. From the unmanifest principle, this manifest universe arises. And during the pralaya, the gross material becomes subtlest. Nothing is destroyed, but the gross becomes subtle. And during the creation, the subtle becomes gross and takes the form. The jivas are released. Jivas come in contact with the prakriti. We are born. So there are endless cycles of creation and sustenance and dissolution. This is what Shashruji took us through, and then Veenaji came and spoke a lot about the supremacy of the Lord, Hari Sarvottama. The Lord, who is the creator and also is involved in dissolution, is different from all those group of articles which have births and deaths. That was made very, very clear. He is not visible. He is avyakta. When all the things are destroyed, he has no destruction. He is supreme and has no beginning or the end. In the Shrutis, he is referred to as Akshara, and we had once again a good discussion on Akshara. So on reaching him, Krishna's abode, there is no return to the samsara. We said that. So now the question was, how do we reach that abode? And that's when the concept of bhakti came in. Bhaktya labhasva tvananyaya. Bhaktya, only by bhakti we can reach them. And not by any other means. Ananyaya, labhya. Labhya is within the realm of one's reach. So only through unperturbed bhakti can I be known, seen, and attained. And we had very good discussion. I think Prakash ji asked some questions about is it only bhakti and what is bhakti? We had to define bhakti. We took Jayatirtha's definition of bhakti. So it is just not the bhakti. Bhakti does not come on its own. It comes with a package. So we discussed a lot about that. What else? Now, what next? So we know that once the soul exits the body, it has a destination. We know either Vaikuntha or the other lokas. But who are those who travel to Vaikuntha? Who are those who reach to the other bodies, other lokas? And do we know the route to reach that abode? Does the soul know the route to reach that abode? Does the soul have a route map? Does it have a Google map? Does it have a GPS navigation? We know that some of the souls, when they exit from Brahmarandra, they have to reach Vaikuntha. So who travels by this route? This is a one-way route, like a motorway. Is it not a motorway? It's not. There is no return. Once you reach Vaikuntha, there is no return. And how does the soul travel alone? Are there anybody there on the route, some divine people who are helping this soul? We also know that some souls take a circuitous route. They have no entry in Vaikuntha. So they have to take this route. Who are the souls who take this route? What is this route called? And who are those people on this route who are helping the soul? So to answer all these questions in the remaining verses of chapter 8, I would request Harish Ji to take on from here. But before I invite Harish Ji, I just wanted to conclude the chapter 8 by some of these statements. So chapter 8 says about thinking of the God at the end of life should be a habit. The life should be pervaded by godly thoughts. So being immersed in one's own pleasures and after spending a greater part of one's life in worldly affairs, If one desires to think of God only in the final days, it will be futile. Acharya Madhva said, the person who has inquired about the God by strength of his mind during his lifetime will alone be able to think of him without worry at the end of the life. Gita says, during life's journey and at its end, God should be remembered. Whole life should become God pervaded. In the meritorious remembrance of the God at the time of the death, we can recognize the pure sadhana of one's entire life. The essence of message of Gita, chapter 8, is that our whole life should be pure by divine consciousness. With that note, Krishna Arpanamastu, and over to you, Harishji.
Excellent. Thank you, Anandji. And I think you've laid a very nice foundation for what we've covered in chapter 8. So we'll close this out by talking about the two paths that Sri Krishna talks about. So let me quickly share my screen and we can dive into it. Okay, are you able to see? Okay, all right. So the four slokas from the 23rd sloka through the 26th. So yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayata yanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatashava. So here, what Krishna is really talking about is that there are two paths. One of them is and both are valid paths taken by seekers. One of them is the one that leads to moksha. It leads to Vishnudhama, and there is no return back to the world. Whereas there is another path where there is a return journey that comes back to this world. Now, there is this thing about kalam, right? So it says yanti tam kalam, and this is has been a source of some confusion, with some interpretations. Where is this talking about the time of death, or is it talking about something else? And this is one topic where a lot of the acharyas are very consistently agree that this is about the presiding deities and not about the time itself. And we'll get into some of that in a bit. So first shloka talks about these two paths. And then Agnir Jyoti Raha Shuklaha is that shloka talks about the first path. Here Anandji gave this analogy of a motorway. So this is you can think of one path that takes you to the Brahmaloka. And then there is the other one, which is, Dhumo Ratri Sata Krishna Shanmasa Dakshinayam. So this is a different path, which is to be identified by a different set of presiding deities, which will guide you to your, in your journey to, to Swarga, and also on your return journey back to Earth. And then the 26th sloka talks about Shukla Krishna Gati Hete Jakata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yanti Navrittim Anyanya Vartate Punaha. So this is where it really talks about how that these two paths, are permanent, and they are called, Shukla and Krishna. And Shukla referring to the Devayana path, Krishna referring to the Pitrayana path. And those who leave to the first path, do not return, and those leaving to the second path, will return. So again, this is just a summary of what it is. What we'll then get into is a bit more detail into the two paths, and then we'll close out this chapter. Now, before we do that, this particular thing on the Devayana path has been very extensively discussed in many Upanishads. In fact, there are at least 2 or 3 Brahma Sutra sutras that have discussed it, which leads one to believe that it probably is a source of a little bit of confusion, and that's why it has been very clearly explained. So we'll start with the Mundaka Upanishad, which we had done earlier this year, and here there is this. You may recall that there was this concept that the one who offers oblations into the shining tongues of flames at the prescribed time, and also offers the offerings to the Kalabhimani Devatas, is led by the deities who are present in the rays of the sun. So, tam nayante ta suryasya rashmayo yatra devanam. So again, the concept of devanam, and here it's referring to the path of the sun. And then if you go to in another Mundaka in the same Upanishad, Satyameva Jayati Nanrita Satyena Pantha Vitato Devayana. Again, a concept of the point of Devayana. So only those who are devoted to Satya, Satya, as you know, is another name for the god, will prevail and not the others. And then that Devayana path is laid out by Satya, the all-pervasive, who guides and protects the souls that take this route. So these are two that are referred to in the Mundaka Upanishad. And earlier when we did Katha Upanishad, Shatam Chaika na Hridasya Nadya, this is where it talks about the nadis. And the nadis that are, there is one nadi that will take you to moksha, and the other ones that that will not, and it will bring you back. So similar concept. Although it doesn't refer to Devyana and Pitriyana by the term, it's the same concept that one leads the concept of the two paths. One that goes to the Brahmarandra, the other one that is if it doesn't go through that, then it's a different path. Now, Chandogya Upanishad, I didn't include the actual verse because it was lengthy and wouldn't have fit here. But there is a deep discussion on the Panchagni, Vidya and all of that. And when and right after that, it talks about this, this thing that after that, you go to the Archi Loka and then the Ahar Loka, then Shukla Paksha Loka and Uttarayana Loka and Samvatsara Loka, Surya Loka. And that's how then finally it is Vayu who leads the soul to Brahma Loka, and this is considered to be the path of God. And also in Prashna Upanishad, which we yet to do, but here also you'll see that there's this Athottarena Tapasa Brahmacharyena Shraddhaya Vidya Atmanan Anvishyad Adityam Abhijayante. So here what it's saying is that those who have sought the Brahman by penance, austerity, faith, and knowledge gain the sun, traveling through the northern route. Now, one thing that has been discussed is, you may see that sometimes we were talking about Jyoti, sometimes we are talking about Archi, sometimes we are talking about the sun. So are these different routes, or are they talking about the same route? And this is where acharyas have clarified that it is all referring to the same route. They may be emphasizing different Abhimani Devatas along this route. So that's the thing on the Devyana and the Pitrayana. Now in the Brahma Sutra as well, there is a couple of sutras. The Yogina Prati Smaryate Smarate Chaite Om. In this one, this is not the literal translation of this sutra, but what it's trying to clarify is that anytime you have references to Uttarayana and Shukla Paksha, daylight, it does not refer to the time, but the loka is ruled by the deities, and then the other one is the Archirad Dina Tat Pratite. So the soul passes through the various lokas, beginning with the Archi Loka, and reaching Vayu to finally reach Vishnu. So this is to say that what Bhagavad Gita, is saying in these slokas about these two paths has been, very elaborately discussed in many other parts of the Upanishad and clarified in the Brahma Sutra. Now we'll go into the specifics of the Devayana. And here, this is where it's a path for the souls that are eligible for moksha. So the presiding deities, and again, the way to visualize this is that this is a route, and you will make a journey through these different lokas with the presiding deities guiding the way, to the Brahma Loka and beyond. And so you start with the Pradhana Agni, and then the Ahaha, which is the presiding deity for day, and then Shukla, and then Uttarayana and Shanmasa. So all of these are presiding deities that will guide you in the Devyana path. until you reach the Surya Loka, and then from the Surya Loka to Brahma Loka, and then as was mentioned, Vayu will help guide you beyond that, to the abode where all the devatas reside. One-way route, there's no return back, and you attain moksha. Okay, so that is the Devayana route. And then if you go to the Pitrayana route, this is where the soul is not eligible for moksha. So yogis who have done, austere penance and yagas with the desire of results. So you've still done your karmas, you've still done your, your yajnas, but there is the desire of results in it. Then, you go through, because of your punya, you will still, reach Swarga and, enjoy time there. And your journey to Swarga will be guided by, various, deities associated with this path, Dhuma, Ratri, Krishna, Shanmasa, Dakshinayana. And after your time in Swarga and you've exhausted the punyas that you have accumulated, then there is the route back to the Mrityu Loka. And that route back, this is where it connects into the Panchagni Vidya, where you start with the Chandra Loka, and from the Chandra Loka, you'll through Parjanya, the rain, the jiva actually gets to the earth, and then grows as a grain, and the grain is consumed by a male body, and from the male body it goes to the female body and takes birth again. So that whole concept, which has been discussed in a couple of Upanishads, and we've discussed that in the past, that will follow to how the route back is going, the return journey is going to work. But in terms of the forward journey into the Swarga, it's going to be through the Pitrayana, guided by the presiding deities there. And then obviously the tamasic jivas, they, for them it is going to be a one-way journey to Andhatamas, and that this is more for the ones that have sufficient amount of punya to actually go through this journey and return back. So those are the two the paths that that we'll discuss, and then. And this is again further, making this point that does the time of death determine the soul's path? And the answer is no. The same things are important, right? The efforts and the performance during your lifetime, the type of divine and spiritual knowledge, including this particular knowledge about knowing about these two paths, that is going to be helpful. And then I know there was a discussion last time about aparoksha jnana. And at what point, and we'll get into some of that in the Q&A, aparoksha jnana, and that is a prerequisite, for moksha. And then overall, you need the divine grace. So this, so your destination is not determined by the time, but rather by by jnana and all the merits done by the jiva and attaining the aparoksha jnana. So the word kala referenced again should not be interpreted to mean it should be interpreted to mean the respective governing deities who preside over the paths taken by the soul. And finally, when you hear references like Agni, Jyoti, Dhuma, all of those, some of them are time-based, some of them are not. But way to understand it is that they are the presiding deities. As we are guided by the Brahma Sutra, Abhimani Vyapadeshastu Sutra. Okay, so that's that time of death thing. And the other question that comes up often is, well, that's all good, but then Bhishma did not, leave his body in Dakshinayana, and it is well known that he departed in Uttarayana. Why did he do that? If it's not for for mukti. And there is a lot of discussion on this as well, and and some of the points are that he was just exercising his boon of Ichha Mrityu, that he got from his father. And why did he have to exercise that? It is because he didn't feel like his job was done. I mean, in terms of imparting the knowledge to the Pandavas. I mean, he spent hundreds of years accumulating all this jnana. And he felt like, particularly in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata, he imparts a lot of that knowledge to the Pandavas. And also there's this point that he is technically a devata, because he's an incarnation of the Dev Vasu, and so he follows a slightly different path to moksha, which goes to the mukta sthana of Vishnu Loka. Now that is one point where I'll maybe I'll invite Madhuji, if you're available, to give us a little bit more detail and remind us of those of the devata path to moksha.
Sure. Yeah, thank you very much, Harishji. Super slide so far. So, just a reminder to all of us, you may remember early in the year we completed Mundaka Upanishad, and in the Mundaka Upanishad, the last adhyaya, the last few verses of Mundaka Upanishad actually talks about this. It talks about the various souls, and there is a discussion in the penultimate verse as to what happens to ordinary souls like us. What happens to the exalted souls who are Tattvabhimani Devatas? Okay, so the Gita chapter so far, Harish ji so eloquently been discussing about Pitriyana, Devayana, is applicable to the souls like us, the Mukti Yogyas, as Acharya says, Mukti Yogyas, Manishyottamas, Mukti Yogyas. In the Mukti Yogyas, you have the Manishyottamas, right? The Manishyottamas, what kind of journey they are going to follow? If they are Sattvikas, they follow the role of Devayana, and the Jivas who are Rajasikas will go round and round in circles, and of course the Tamasikas go to the Andhatamas. So here we are not interested in Andhatamas. Fellows who go to the Andhatamas, we are not interested, because most of us here are Rajasikas, either going through samsaras, or some of us may be really Sattvikas going through the Devayana path. So that clarification, I think we have to, so as we all know, the Gita is the summary of the Upanishads. And again, Harish ji brought in all those key references around the various paths. So we have to adopt that and apply that here. The reason being, souls like us who are Manishyottamas, so there are two ways in which we kind of worship Brahman, isn't it? So they are the Pratikalambanas and the Apratikalambanas. So Pratikalambana, so the Vedas tell us there are two categories of people who worship Brahman in two different ways. One are the Pratikalambanas. Pratikalambanas or us, Pratika means symbol. Yeah. So we need a symbol. We are such mundane, limited souls that we need some kind of a symbol. Linga, as it's called. Linga means symbol. Yeah. So we need a symbol by which we can make that journey, and we need an external an external symbol, a pratika, going to the temple and using an image and doing dhyana and that kind of stuff. So that is for us. So we do external upasana of pratikalambanas. Then you have the Tattvabhimani Devatas, who are an entirely different category of, they are souls, of course, but they are highly elevated souls. They are the Tattvabhimani Devatas. So in the Mundaka Upanishad, there was this conversation about what happens to the Tattvabhimani Devatas. Do they also take the same path like Devayana path and then going to hang out in Satyaloka and then go to Vaikunta, or they have a different route? I mean, these are subtle discussions, to be honest, for you and me, probably it is not relevant. Maybe some of us are Tattvabhimani Devatas here, I don't know, but most of us are not. It is not relevant, but the Vedas have not, they haven't left any stone unturned here. They have addressed all aspects of souls. So the Tattvabhimani Devatas are Apratikalambanas. Apratikalambanas means Tattvabhimani Devatas don't need a symbol, a finite thing that they need to worship. They actually worship Brahman as Brahman, who is all pervasive. The all pervasive form is how they worship. So they are the Apratikalambanas. Okay, so those Apratikalambanas, say why we are having this Pratikalambanas and Apratikalambanas is, as Harish ji mentioned, our Bhishma is a Dhyau Namaka Vasu. Yeah, he is a Vasu. Yeah, Vasu, Rudra, Adityas. They are all the Devatas, right? So these guys are all Aditi's children. Yeah, remember Aditi, Kashyapa, Aditi, their children. We saw it last week. So these Vasu, Rudra, Adityas are all their children. Their Devas are Asura. Their Devas are Suras, but they come in each Manvantara. Yeah. So these guys, once they have finished their role in Brahmanda as well as in Pindanda, the question is what happens to them. So there the Vedas and the Brahma Sutras particularly the Mundaka Upanishad clarifies. So these Apratikalambanas, their journey is slightly different. That they actually go to the Amukta Sthana of Vishnu Loka, and then they hang out there once they say, for example, this Manvantara is done. Our Dyaunamaka who was Bhishma in Dwapara Yuga, then once this Manvantara is done, he will go to Amukta Sthana of Vishnu Loka and then stay there, and then he wait for the Brahma, the Chaturmukha Brahma to finish his life. And at that point, our Vayu is still the predominant person there. The Vayu will collect the jivas from the Satya Loka, that is you and me, and he will also pick up all the Tattvabhimani Devatas, and then all of them, go through they cross over and go to the Vaikunta. Even there, if you want to be a little bit more technical there, there is also a view there that the material linga sharira of Manishyottamas, they dip in the Viraja Nadi and they go, whereas the Tattvabhimani Devatas material stuff is actually destroyed by Narasimha Agni. Narasimha Agni, as it's called, the Narasimha Agni destroys there and then goes. So these are subtle points, but that is how I think, Harishji, if we approach the Dyaunamaka Vashu, Bhishma's journey, it becomes very interesting. And also, as you pointed out, Bhishma had a role to play, right? His dad, who's Varuna himself, he actually gives him the boon that you decide when you want to die, and then so he actually brings his father's boon to fruition. Plus, he had to give the Vishnu Sahasranama, and he still needs to talk about the greatness of Krishna and all that. That needs to be completed, and then he needs to finish his Brahmanda duties in this Manvantara before he goes. So that is why he hangs out, and at the same time, I also wanted to remind everything is metaphorical, right? When you look at Uttarayana, everything is about light. If you think about that, it's daytime, it is shining, and it is Uttara, that is, it's going up, whereas Dakshina means south coming down. So it gives you those kind of metaphorical sense about the knowledgeables who have got aparoksha jnana. They go upwards. Uttara Ayana means upward journey, whereas Dakshinayana means southern journey. They come down. So it's supremely metaphorical, and I hope I've kind of summarized what is going on in Dyaunamaka Vashu. Over to you, Harishji. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so moving on to the final two shlokas, in this chapter, Naiti Sute Partha Janan Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna Vedeshu Yajneshu Tapassu Chaiva Daneshu Yat Punya Phalam Pradishtam Atyeti Tat Sarvamidam Viditva Yogi Param Sthanam Upaiti Chadyam. So what's going on here? So here, what it's trying to say is that the seeker who properly understands these two paths that we just talked about and acts accordingly, meaning, not that it's one thing to understand it intellectually and not do anything about it. And I don't see that there'll be a lot of benefit, from doing that. But actually, to the extent that you understand it, that your acharana has changed and you're able to do karmas, accordingly, then those seekers will not be deluded. So Krishna reiterates that Arjuna must perform the prescribed duty of waging the just war with proper convictions in the concepts, described in this chapter. And the last one is, it's a bit of raises your eyebrows, right? So it says that one who understands these principles will accrue more benefits compared to what's accrued by studying the Vedas or performing sacrifices and austerities and charities. And moreover, such a seeker will indeed reach the Lord's abode. So is that right? So is this, is now that we know this, are we done? Do we not need to worry about Vedas and sacrifices and all of that? So I think it's metaphorically talking about concepts laid out in the entire chapter, not just about these these two paths, but then it also is emphasizing that knowing this will change how you are and how you operate, right? So, and that is what it is meant, that once you understand these two these concepts and these two paths, then you'll realize the temporary nature of this material world and the futility of materialistic living, and instead of running behind sensual pleasures, you'll focus on bhakti and love to God, and thereby get to the path of light. So, that is the underlying, message, that if you understand this path, you understand the fact that we're not going to be here forever. There are these paths, and, the Uttarayana path is the one that we need to go after. Then we will do things in our lives. We will operate, differently, and that is what's going to create the bhakti and help us, attain moksha, in this life or in future lives. So that is the closure of the of chapter 8. With this statement. Anji, I'll pause here for any Q&As. I know there was some Q&As last time, but maybe we should give some time for any Q&As.
Absolutely. Yes, there were some questions after Prakashji's talk, but I haven't been able to catch hold of him, or I haven't had a chance to raise those questions with him. But sometimes I'll do it and put it in the group. But this session is now open for Q&A. Anyone has anything to comment or ask questions, please feel free to do so.
So, Annaji, whilst we're waiting for the questions to come through, I'll probably, with your permission, start off just reminding everyone the sequence of the journey of souls is absolutely clear. Yeah. Nishkama karma is the basics. Without Nishkama karma, there is no chance. So that is what Krishna has taught us in the first Shatka, that you have to do Nishkama karma. And that Nishkama karma means, what are the benefits of Nishkama karma? One is that you won't have any karmic imprints for the activities that you're doing. But more importantly, that you're dedicating everything to Paramatma. So, and you're dedicating that with knowledge. And because of that knowledge, your dedication, then you develop bhakti or the devotion. And that devotion eventually leads to one's grace. And the grace point is through devotion. That is very clear. Now, we should not be under the delusion that just because we are following Nishkama karma now, that even our previous karmic imprints that we have accumulated from endless previous birth is just somehow is going to disappear. No, it is not going to disappear. If you say that I will exhaust all the karmas and then I will go for mukti, no, you can never exhaust your karma. As you know, scriptures say in every birth, at least you acquire karmas that will lead to at least 10 other births. Yeah, that is from the age of 14 to age of 80. From that period, the karmas that you do, you will get at least 10 other births. So there is no way in which by our own effort, we are going to be exhausting the karmas. That is very clear. So we need some kind of a divine providence that helps us. That is the incentive. Okay, the whole idea of Shastra Abhyasa and knowledge and bhakti and nishkama karma is to reach that stage where we get that grace. What is the purpose of that grace? Not just Krishna says, okay, mate, I'm very happy with you. You've been doing a good job. No, Krishna gives an incentive. So when you reach that and you attain my grace, I will actually give you an incentive. What is that incentive? I'm going to remove all the karmic imprints from your Linga Sharira. So I'm going to do a karma kshaya. That is what the Sutra, the Brahma Sutra talks about, karma kshaya pada. I will remove all the Linga Sharira, imprints on the Linga Sharira, but whatever prarabdha karma that has come into fruition, you will have to finish that prarabdha karma. And once that prarabdha karma is finished, then you will make that one-way journey. Then you will make that one-way trip through Devayana and go to Satyaloka, and then eventually come to me, is what Krishna has said very, very clearly. So when we look at these steps, first is aparoksha jnana, then is exhaustion of, first is aparoksha jnana, removal or distraction of all the karmic imprints, then exhaustion of prarabdha karma, then that path that is going to happen. So that path that Harishji was talking about is very clear. It happens to only that person who is an aparoksha jnanin and who is in his last birth, i.e., that is at that point he is exhausted all his prarabdha karmas, and then for him only there is a Devayana path. So that route has been very clearly taught to us by our Acharya. So I just wanted to put that as the framework in which we need to approach this problem. There are folks who think that there is a shortcut to reaching Vaikuntha. Absolutely no shortcut. Okay, it is a huge effort that is required. The effort is as Anandji was mentioning is on a daily basis, but that is the kind of effort that is required to reach that aparoksha jnana. So I came out having no confusions from that session, but I know there was some discussions that happened. But I just wanted to put the framework again as how we have learned from gurus and how our founding father Vedavyasa has described in the fourth adhyaya of Brahma Sutra. So that was my little contribution, and we'll open up for some Q&As. Harish.
So, just to clarify what you said, so aparoksha jnana then is a necessary condition but not sufficient. Is that another way of looking at it?
Yeah, aparoksha jnana is the first step. Without aparoksha jnana, you cannot go to the next station at all. So you need to have aparoksha jnana. But after aparoksha jnana, moksha is guaranteed.
Moksha.
It may
Oh,
not
it is
be.
guaranteed.
It is
Okay,
guaranteed
okay.
of aparoksha jnana. But that guarantee is what after you have finished your prarabdha karma, you will come.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Anybody else wants to come in here, please? Okay. Cool. Saptarshi. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a small question. So, regarding the aparoksha jnana, once I have the aparoksha jnana and I have the prarabdha karma, and I need to exhaust it, I need to take birth, and let's say going through all of the phalas that I should get. But during that phase, do I acquire any karma or no? Like, because yeah, that's the question. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else wants to do, but that's a very good question, Saptarshi. Anand, go for it.
So when you look at, I think we have done this in Mundaka Upanishad, the karmas there are different types of karmas. One is Sanchita karma, and one is the Prarabdha karma. What is the third one? Third one.
So you
The Sanchita
Agami.
Agami.
Agami karma. So Agami, the Sanchita karma is the one like it's described using the bow and arrow analogy and the sheath for the keeping the arrows. The ones you have done, that is the karmas which you have done, isn't it? Agami is the past karmas. And the prarabdha karma is the one where you have shot the arrow.
Agami is the future. Sanchita is the past.
Oh, sorry, did I say it the other way? But the prarabdha is the one where you have shot the arrow and the arrow is traveling. So until that finishes its kinetic energy, that karma has to be faced. So until that karma is faced, all your karma does not happen 100%.
So I think what Saptarshi is asking is, after your aparoksha jnana, what happens to the karma that you give? So two answers to that, Saptarshi. Great question. One is, an aparoksha jnanan, by definition, will likely be doing nishkama karma. He'll probably doing nishkama karma as an aparoksha jnani, number one. And the next question is, if he is doing nishkama karma, does he get any phala? Does he get any benefits from it? So the view there from our acharyas is that there is the unnati, that is the intensity of bliss increases in moksha for those aparoksha jnanins who are still engaged in karmic activities. And some schools of philosophies, they have a specific name for this. What is the word? Jivan Muktas. That is the word for them. So there's some schools call them as Jivan Muktas, not particularly taken in the Tattvavada point of view, but the view is if they do karmas after aparoksha jnana, their intensity of bliss, the quanta of bliss is the same, but the intensity of the bliss increases. And the classic example that is given is you have a vessel with milk in it. That volume of the milk in that vessel is finite, but if you put a flame underneath it, eventually it boils, right? And it boils and it then overflows. So that is the definition of that increase in bliss that they attain. But you have to do karma. Nobody can, Krishna said you cannot do karmas. You have to do karmas, and the aparoksha jnanins also do it, but they have an increased intensity of bliss.
Okay, so we can say that there is no chance that the people who has acquired aparoksha jnana will do negative karma, like which can harm the society or like that. But automatically, as they have acquired the aparoksha jnana, they will do good karmas only.
The default position is like that, but if their prarabdha karma is such that they have to do some stuff and exhaust that prarabdha karma, then so be it.
Okay, okay.
So we got
Thanks.
Devalji and Neetaji.
Thanks.
Yeah, so just taking that question further. So then, if you are experiencing prarabdha karma, you don't have to have a linga sharira. Is that not? Does that follow?
Sorry, Devaljit, can you clarify that? Linga Sharira will always be there. Linga Sharira only will go away after your after Brahma Kalpa, and the next Sarga only Linga Sharira is going away. Until you dip in that Viraja, Linga Sharira is not going to go away. You will always be with Linga Sharira because we are still in samsara. Like Aparoksha Jnanis are also in samsara. Okay, so they will still have the linga sharira, and they will still have, because if they are in this body, if it is a human body is the last body for that person, he will still have a material covering. Yeah, and the linga sharira is always there with them until the dip in viraja nadi. So karmic imprints is on the linga sharira. Ajnana, the positive ignorance of the souls. If you remember, there are various ignorance, right? The paramachadika, jivachadika, shaivala. So paramachadika and jivachadika. Yeah, so that concepts are there. Right? Jivachadika is gone in aparoksha jnana. Paramachadika, you get a small little removal of this, and then so those ignorance may go after when you're doing the Devayana path, if you're the Satvika stuff. But your Linga Sharira will always be there with you.
Okay, thanks.
So, Madhuji, correct me if I'm wrong, but if once you get aproksha jnana and you have to finish your prarabdha karma, you still have a degree of ignorance, because if you don't have ignorance, then you will not be able to do your full duties of prarabdha karma. Even if there are some bad duties, then you may not be able to do those. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yes, absolutely, Sushruji. So, in fact, that is another grace of Paramatma, that he actually gives that kind of ignorance to even the aparoksha jnanins, so that they can finish off their prarabdha karma. So, you remember the eightfold cosmic dispensations, right? And in that eightfold cosmic series, you get jnana, ajnana, bandha, moksha. That ajnana there fits in very beautifully or aparoksha jnanins when they are exhausting prarabdha karma. Because if for example you go into another level of philosophical discussion, you could argue, how can Paramatma give ignorance to souls? Is he not cruel to actually give ignorance to souls? You may ask that question. But for an aparoksha jnanin, that is a grace, so that he can actually finish off his prarabdha karma.
Is that jnana of Proksha Jnana is the same as Tirodhana?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you could say that. Thirodhana. Yeah, absolutely. So if you remember, we have had these conversations with TSR before, and the TSR has made it very clear that Ajnana, when the God gives Ajnana for the Aparoksha Jnana, it is a grace. He gives them grace so that they are able to complete this. Otherwise, it will be very difficult, as Sushrut mentioned. And again, in Gita, Arjuna has Tirodhana, right? He is an Aparoksha Jnanin, and how come he forgot? And that is also divine grace, right? So he just ensures that this happens to him at that point. Even for Kali Pravesha, that happens to all of us all the time. Kali Pravesha also is under the control of Paramatma only. So that Kali Pravesha with ignorance that happens to us also is as per our as per our Swarupa Yogyata. And then we have also read in other places, in Tattvabhimani Devatas in Mahabharata, why they do some bad deeds. Some guys don't do. Karna is a classic example. He has done such a good deed in Ramayana, and then he does bad deeds here. There are all these Edamana Dvita concepts of balancing out stuff that needs to happen for souls so that they reach their destinations as per their capacity. So there's various nuances to it, but completely agree, Neetaji, that the Tirodhana is what is happening there. Rajji?
Very excellent sessions, Guruji and Anandji and Harishji. Thank you for that. But I've got a very simple question. This prarabdha karma is coming up repeatedly, which has not so far been not under anybody's control at all. By whatever jnana we are acquiring now and in the future, hopefully, will that modify the prarabdha karma and then make any give any allowances, or maybe it is already doing it? I just thought, what are your views about that, or is it just a fixed punishment? Will you call it as a punishment if you want to, or as you said, God's grace to improve upon ourselves to finish it, whichever you want to phrase it. Is there any in the Vedic literature or Gita an allowance made for muting the prarabdha karma? Sorry, that is very simple. I thought it is. Just was wondering about it.
I think my understanding, Rajji, is you cannot stop prarabdha karma, or you cannot even decrease the amount of prarabdha karma. It has to be faced. That is, imagine that arrow which has been shot. It has to travel the distance and reach its destination. That's why that analogy came. Prarabdha karma, nobody can stop it. They have to go through that to exhaust all the karmas. Maybe Madhu can add something.
So there is one, so Raji, again, very interesting question there. There is, prarabdha karma, as Anandji said, has to be exhausted. But different jivas based on their swarupa yogyata can exhaust that prarabdha karma in different ways. For example, in the Brahma Sutra, they discuss about, yogic rishis who are of yogic capacity. And if their prarabdha karma is that they have to take 50 births and then finish the prarabdha karma, they can actually take 50 births simultaneously quickly and finish it off. So those kind of examples are given. Yeah, Sanaka. Sanaka is a classic example of that, who is described that the yogic powers, they can exhaust it quickly, but they have to exhaust it. They have to finish it. So there is nothing called excuse from karma, but
No.
God does remove all the karmic imprints. Like that is a great achievement for us, and the great benevolence that He is doing of actually erasing all our karmas. But prarabdha, He says you have to go through it.
Like we hear about Paschatapa removes some of the papas and things like that. Is there any such similar corollary? I was just wondering. Otherwise, yes, thank you for that explanation.
Thank you.
Namaskar. Is there a Abhimani Devata for this karma, prarabdha karma?
Yeah, Pushkara is the Abhimani of karma.
Karma, for all the karmas.
The Devata for Abhimani Devata for karma concept is Pushkara.
And so they are going to be with us even after that Viraja Nadi is done in our Linga Sharira, they're going to be there.
I don't.
After the Viraja Nadi.
Yeah, so again, this is very interesting, Pratibhaji, that you pointed out. So again, you have to go to Mundaka Upanishad, the last few verses. Go back to the last two verses, because there is a discussion about what happens to the Tattvabhimani Devatas who are on the Linga Sharira, who are actually controlling the various activity of the Jivas. When the Linga Sharira is gone, what happens to them? Okay, so these are very controversial but subtle topics. So the discussion there in Vaikunta, for example, you have the soul, right? And inside the soul is the Antaryamin. The souls are doing various actions. Who is helping the souls doing various actions? Is it just Brahma? Is it just Vayu who is inside the Jivas, and inside the Vayu is Antaryamin? They alone are doing it? Or is there a role for Mukta Tattvabhimani Devatas? So there are also Tattvabhimani Devatas who have reached Vaikunta, right? And so who is helping the Jivas? So again, it's a subtle discussion, but the view there is there are these Mukta Tattvabhimani Devatas that are also inside the Jiva, which allow the Jivas to do all the actions, including in the Moksha Sthiti. So that is what Mundaka Upanishad also says. So we are always with Vayu and Tattvabhimani Devatas of various categories. So we are basically useless beings. That we can't do anything ourselves. At every aspect of our existence, we need the Tattvabhimani Devatas and our Mukhya Prana and Lakshmi Narayana. Without them, you can't do anything, is the view there.
Thank you so much.
Neeta Sushruji.
Yeah, so just coming back to Raj's question, at this moment in time, if you do not have aparoksha jnana, there is no subdivision of your karma saying this is prarabdha and this is sanchita. That distinction only comes after aparoksha jnana, isn't it?
Yes, Sushruji, remember before aparoksha jnana, you need to have self-realization, right?
Yeah.
So without self-realization, there is no God realization. So the Swarupa Sakshatkara has to happen first, the self-realization. Then at that point, you will then know who you are oh, my karmas have gone, maybe you will have all those knowledge there.
Yeah, so at this moment in time, there's just one big pot of all karma. So that subdivision will only happen after we have a little bit more of self-realization and God realization. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah. So at least, as you said, we need to have the knowledge base first that there are these things that exist. Yeah. First thing is we need to know all this thing karma we can't feel or see, but we know it exists, and we know that it exists through the Vedas. So first thing is for us to understand that these concepts are there, and then there are various types of karmas, and then then understand because of karmas we are having these rebirths and births, and then how to get rid of karma, and then do this process that is the prescription that is given in the Vedas. Then self-realization. After self-realization is aparoksha jnana. And aparoksha jnana karma goes off. Then prarabdha karma we have to exhaust. A question about why we have to exhaust the prarabdha karma is a different one. Why can't God be even more kind to us and say, look, you have given aparoksha jnana. I will remove your karma kshaya and I will also remove your prarabdha karma. He could have done that. But he has chosen not to do that. And he said, you have to finish your prarabdha karma and then come. So that is the system that is described in the Vedas. I don't know if any other satsangis have a view on that. Why did God not make an arrangement in such a way that at aparoksha jnana you don't even have to do prarabdha karma also? The arrow that is currently flying can also be destroyed, right? It must be pretty easy to destroy that arrow. If you can remove all the arrows from the bag in your shoulder, you can also remove the arrow that is flying already, right? But why has he not chosen to do so?
Does
Any,
Manavata come there?
I don't know. Edamana Dviti is only for Tattva Bhimani Devatas, as you know, right? Not for us.
Not for
Um,
us.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that may be worth
Just, I had
exploring.
another question. Oh, sorry, if you want, we'll wait for the views for this particular one and then.
Yeah, go for it, so Neetaji, and then Deval.
Yeah, so all the Vasus, Adityas, Rudras, they come down. For example, Bhishma, do they accumulate karmas because things that they would have done wrong? For example, in Mahabharata, he did not respond when Draupadi's Vasrarana was going on. So how does that work? Do they or that they don't accumulate karmas?
Sure, yeah, I'll open it. Great question again. I'll open it for discussion. Who actually gets karma? Karmic imprints, rather.
And the one who has not had self-realization or God realization. When we call somebody as a aparoksha gnani, they have lost some of their karmas apart from the prarabdha karma, isn't it? So I'm only trying to guess and answer Neetaji's question. And if Bhishma, call him aparoksha gnani, has made those mistakes, there will not be imprints of that. But it is he has to do that to exhaust his prarabdha karma.
Sure, yeah, sure, yeah, I understand, yeah. Anybody else wants to have any other thoughts? So what other thing, Neetaji, just to remind, who gets karma? Animals, birds, other living beings don't incur karmas, okay? And you will get karma only if you have a sadhana sharira. A tiger or a lion, just because when it goes and hunts and kills a deer, does not mean the tiger and the lion will actually get karmic imprints. So the karmic imprints has been said that it is applicable only for those jivas that currently have the sadhana sharira, that is you and me. And there also prescription has been made very clear that the karmic imprints will only happen if you have a human birth from 14 years of life up to 80 years of life. And this is so medically relevant because at 14 is that age when you can have your rational thinking, where you can actually apply your buddhi and understand what is right and wrong and so on. You will be able to do that, is the view. So after 14, what you do is what will give you the karmic imprints. And after 80, your mental faculties do come down, and then your ability for rational thinking and so on does come down. So the Vedas are very clear. After 80, what you do, you don't get karmic imprints. So that is between 14 and 80 for sadhana sharira, that is the ones that have human birth in the Mrityu Loka. Now, in that group, what action then gives to karmic imprints? Now, if I'm spontaneously moving my hands and legs, I don't get karmic imprints. Okay, the karmic imprints will only happen with those actions that come through the initiation of the mind. It is that determines whether you're going to get karmic imprints or not. So through the mind, if you decide you want to do an action like this, you have made a decision through your buddhi that you said this is right and wrong, and you make a decision through your mind and buddhi. That is what will give you the karmic imprints. So that means in dreams you will not have karmic imprints. So in dreams, there is all sorts of stuff. We kill each other, somebody kills me, something happens, and so on in the dream. So that doesn't give karmic imprints. In deep sleep, there is no karmic imprints. Only in the Jagrati Sthana, when you are doing that self-initiated action, making that decision between the age of 14 and 80, that is what gives you the karmic imprints, is what the Shastras are telling us. So by that definition, animals don't. Devatas definitely don't have karmic imprints. They do have linga sharira like us, but that their shariras may be as very different. Yeah. So, for example, our Rujus and Chaturmukha Brahma has Dagda Pataya Manavat, as it is described in the Shastra. It is like a very thin sheet of material coverings that they have. Devatas, by definition, don't have karmic imprints, but as how Anandji was mentioning, they have to do certain things for Edamana Dvitu that Paramatma does, and he will give them Kali Pravesha to do some activities so that their benefits are balanced out, or there is a certain divine work that needs to be done through them. So that is why they are doing all these nasty things. Or if you think about fellows like Karna and all that, who is Surya, there is the concept of Jiva Dvaya, and then through the Jiva Dvaya, Edamana Dvita, and the Asura who is inside him, then he goes to Andatamas and so on. So our Acharya has actually given a clear direction as to what's happening to Devatas. Deval Raji?
Sorry, this is a bit too complex for me. So I'm trying to go back 3 steps and ask another question, just for clarification, really. So my understanding of karma is it's not like a bank balance. So it's like you have positive karma and negative karma. And when you die, it doesn't mean that because you've got, I don't know, say 10 points of positive karma in this life and 5 points of negative karma, it doesn't mean that you die with 10 minus 5. You have 15 points of karma, and that is how it goes forward. Is that was one point of my understanding. And the second point of my understanding is that prarabdha karma it's only a portion of the karma that is released in this particular life, whichever life it is. But with every human life that you will have, any point. So in this life, you could have 10 minus negative points. But with the next life, you could be born with 10 positive. It is, of course, it is Hari Icha, whatever you are born with. But is this understanding correct, or is this understanding wrong?
Yeah, Anand or anybody else wants to take this? Anandji.
I'll try to answer that. I think whether it is negative or positive, you have to face the consequences of that karma. If it is positive, you'll
probably... it is not addition and subtraction. It is all.
Yes.
It is all a total number of karmas, right? Is that correct? Yeah.
Absolutely correct. If it is positive, you will probably have some good time in Swarga. If it is negative, you will face the consequences of those. But again, you're reborn. You're reborn. What was the prarabdha karma? What was the question, Devaljit? Prarabdha?
It's not a question. It's just my understanding of.
Yeah.
There was a discussion that.
So Devalji.
Yeah, what is actually destroyed? What is destroyed is prarabdha karma.
Yeah, I got it. Prarabdha karma is what you have already done the karmas. You have already done the karmas.
but only a portion of the Sanchita karma is experienced as a prarabdha karma in this life. So in chapter 8, what we are studying is who's on the path to Devyana or not. So in this life, you will only have, even if you are an aparoksha jnani or you have that in this life, but that there is previous, only a portion of your karmas have been sort of real, have come into fruition in this life.
So, Devalji, I think the poor we all have this bag of karmas, and we carry it from eternity, and then some karma comes into fruition. Okay, that is what is called fate. Okay, so some people say this is my fate, or my fate is very bad, blah blah blah. That is, fate is nothing but your karmas that are coming into fruition in this birth. Okay, if you want to be a purist and you want to talk about this karma stuff, the concept of prarabdha karma technically will come only after aparoksha jnana, because what is left that they have to exhaust. So that is a slightly different argument, but that fraction of karma that you accumulated, that you are now experiencing, is your fate in this life. You may be born rich, you may be born poor, you may be born big, you may be born small, you may be black, born white, you may be born black, you may be born very intelligent, you may be born very dull, whatever. So that kind of a thing, you may have disease, you may not have disease, you may be prosperous, whatever it is that we are seeing in this life, that we call as our fate, is nothing but the, the karmas coming into fruition in this birth. Whereas if you want to be very technical about it, the concept of prarabdha karma only comes after aparoksha jnana, where what that arrow needs to be exhausted. Okay. Then the first question about 10 good karmas and 5 bad karmas, will it become plus 5 rather than 15? Great question again. I don't think it works like this. I don't think it's that simple. So it'll be a 15 karmic imprints of various types on your linga sharira, and then you will make the journey and go to Yamaloka. Like our Nachiketa who went, you will go to that journey in Yamaloka, and our friend Yama will decide for us under the instruction of Paramatma. So we don't have to worry which portion of karmas are going to come. There is a divine providence that is going to make that. Remember that Srimad Bhagavatam verse today morning we were doing that, but 2:10:12 द्रव्यम कर्मश्च कालश्च स्वभावो जीव एव च यदनुग्रहतः सन्ति न सन्ति यदुपेक्षा karma under the control of Paramatma. And Yama along with the Chitragupta and all the other things that we know in mythology, these guys will actually do additions and subtraction and say, okay, you now go as a worm because you've done nasty things, please go as a worm. So we'll have to just endure that. Great discussions. Any other contributions and discussions? Okay, if yeah, Saptarshiji.
I have a question, Madhusudanji, that is there any explanation like why God does not exhaust this prarabdha karma? That's a very interesting question. Like he get us rid of the linga karmic imprints from our linga sharira and all, but this prarabdha karma, is there any explanation in our shastras?
Yeah. Yeah, so there is an explanation, Saptarshiji. So God is very much capable of doing anything. Kartum, akartum, anyata kartum, samarthaha. So he can do things, he can undo things, he can do things in a different way. Okay, he can do all that. He can even remove one's prarabdha karma if he wishes to do so. But remember, our Vedas are telling this is the direction. There is a constitution for the souls, and the Vedas say that there is the prarabdha karma that needs to be exhausted. So what Paramatma does is, the Vedas are under his control, but he self-limits himself and operates under the constitution in which the universe is operating. So that is how it is called the Satya Sankalpa. Yeah, the Satya Sankalpa of Brahman, that this is how the universe should be operating, because it is the Vedas are like these are all the things that are there in the Vedas. Vedas are apaurushaya, they are of supreme authority. This is the constitution of the universe. So I am going to abide by the constitution of the universe, which is under my control. It is like a president of a country who abides by the constitution in which the country is run. Although he has the capacity to change the constitution, he chooses not to do so. Is the answer that is given in the Shastras.
Thank you so much, Madhusudanji.
Always, yeah. Super. Anandji, go for it.
I just want to thank you, thanks Suresh ji for this opportunity, and I would like to thank Srikant ji, Shashruth ji, Veena ji, Harish ji, and our external speaker Prakash Prasad. And thank you very much. I think we were there to do the Chintana of chapter 8, and we conclude that today. Thank you so much for that.
So Anandji, just a reminder. So then Harish ji was going to give us an introduction to chapter 9, which is coming up in November. So over to you, Harish ji, if you want to give us a bird's eye view of how this is going to evolve, the chapter 9. Over to you, Harish ji.
All right. All right. So I'll do a quick. We don't have too much time, so I'll go through a very quick overview of how we're going to tackle chapter 9. Now, it's called the Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga, and Srimad Acharya, has in his introduction has made very clear that chapter 9 is but a continuation of what we started in chapter 7. So, and the two things that he talks about is prapanchayati and spashtayati. So, prapanchayati is he's expanding in more detail what's in chapter 7, and spashtayati meaning making it more clear to us. So he's providing us a slightly different perspective, but many of the ideas are very similar to what was discussed in chapter 7. So you'll see some amount of repetition there. Now, the way we're going to tackle this is that we'll give you today we plan to do a quick introduction, and the first 2 or 3 shlokas are really just talking about Sri Krishna introducing what this what Raja Guhya Raja Vidya is and why he's sharing that with Arjuna. And then we're going to break and have the Kenopanishad for the next 2 weeks. And then November 30th is when we will start with chapter 9. We'll talk through some of the role in when Sri Krishna talks about his role in creation and dissolution, the Janmadi Ashtaka, the eightfold cosmic dispensation that we've discussed. So he gives a summary of that. He talks about the different ways that the ignorant and the devotee and how they worship, and what's the consequences of those types of worship. So that is will be the focus for the next session on November 30th. And then in December 7th is when we and Pratibha was instrumental in helping here, but we were able to get Dr. Purna Prasad to join us, and he's going to give us an overview of the chapter, but also in particular talk through 16 through 19, which gets into the the crux of of this, which is talking about the omnipresent indwelling God and the supremacy of bhakti. So those concepts we'll have him cover December 7th. So please make every attempt to join that, and then we'll close it out December 14th when we talk about the karma yogis and the bhaktas, and what are the different ways that they do their upasanas. And then it is there even for pious souls that are indulging in misdeeds. What is the way for them, and then overall the merits of totally surrendering to the Lord. So this is what we will cover. So we'll need 3 sessions, and including a very brief introduction session today. So and Dr. Purna Prasad, for those, we will do a more detailed introduction, but he lives in New York. He's done for those who don't know, he actually runs a satsang. He's a big follower of Baranjia Acharya. So it will be an very interesting discussion with him. And a little bit of story there is that he's also featured in one of Madhvacharya's movies. So If you haven't seen it, maybe I'll share a clip of where he's singing a song, as Madhvacharya there. So I'll share that.
I think he's taken the role of Madhvacharya. He plays the role of
He
Madhvacharya.
plays the role of Madhvacharya. Okay, yeah.
And he says that's
Fantastic.
when he got inspired, taking on that role. He just got inspired, and then he started learning, understanding, went to Bannerjee, went to Himalayas, stayed for nearly 2-3 years, and then he came back. And then, like Madhuji, he's just propagating about Tattvavada throughout.
So yeah, this satsang group will definitely benefit from that conversation. And yeah, I mean, I'll just maybe go through one piece. I mean, I think some of you, are familiar with this, but there's really three parts. As we said in the Bhagavad Gita, the first one is the sadhana, shatka, and then the middle part is, where we're talking about the sadhya and the upasya, which describes the qualities, the vibhutis, the vaibhava, the mahima of of the Lord. So that is the section that we are in, and we are bang in the center of that section in chapter 9. So one of the things is, sometimes the placement of these verses are also important. So it's so chapter 9 is where it's sort of in the central of Bhagavad Gita. It's called Raja Vidya Raja Guhya because it emphasizes about that one final ingredient that to make him reveal himself to all genuine seekers. So we'll talk about a lot more about that, and about why this was shared to Arjuna and all of that. Madhusudanji.
Yeah, very, very briefly. So sounds amazing. Excellent plans for the next 3 sessions. If you just go back to the previous slide, Harishji, if that's okay, the details. Yes, 7th of December. Okay, 7th of December, Gita Jayanti Day. So there is a conversation that is going on at this point. Last year, if you may remember, we did the whole Gita 18 chapters recitation. And on Gita Jayanti Day, we do the whole thing. It takes about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. And so that is something that is on the cards on the 7th of December. So a couple of things there, Harishji. What will really help us is to have an idea of how long Purna Prasad ji is going to talk to us, 45 minutes, 1 hour. As long as he wants, the more we have, the better. So that idea will be helpful. And then just for the Satsanga team, so we will have the Gita 18, the whole 18 chapter recitation, then followed by the special guest lecture. Okay. So the timing of when that Gita recitation, 3 hours, is going to happen is up for grabs. It'll probably be a bit earlier. And then there is a period of 2-3 hours break, and then we come to the guest session. Or the other possibility is do the 18 chapters and then rest it out for half an hour or so, and then get into the guest lecture. So 7th of December is going to be a busy day and a fruitful day for all of us, I think. So Neeta ji and team, they are coordinating this. So I'm going to request folks to volunteer as much as they can. Husband and wife, children, however you guys want to do it. So we do need 18 satsangis to take up 18 chapters. Or it can be even more, and then we can have part A and part B of each chapter. So the more satsangis join for the recitation, the more punya that we are all going to get. And as Devalji said, we might accrue some positive karmas from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll follow up with him and get to the specifics. I think we are targeted for 45 minutes plus Q&A, but based on this agenda, we'll see what
sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
And for those that are interested in chanting, we let Neeta know. Right?
Yeah, Neeta ji know, or they can put so as you know, we are phased out from Sahiti, so we have our own WhatsApp group now, Hindu Knowledge Academy, Upanishad Chintana. So please generously put your messages there and say whoever wants to do, or send a private message to Neeta ji or me or Anand or anybody else that you may want to get in touch.
Okay. Excellent. And also, the team that's going to help me with the chapter 9, Pratibha and Pavan and Deval will be part of the team. So again, we always have room for others. So anybody else that feels very strongly about chapter 9, happy to take on more help. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Madhuji. I think
Yeah.
it's a wrap.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, thank you very much, Harishji. And so I was going to say a very big thank you for Anandji and team who have done the chapter 8 over several sessions. And I have to, give not only a big thank you, but we have had so much of revision about chapter 8. So I think it's gone into our deep memory already. So thank you so much, Anandji and Harishji, for today's session. Look forward to chapter 9 in the coming weeks. So from next week, we got 3 continuous weekends to finish Kena Upanishad. So I'm just hoping that we'll complete Kena Upanishad over the next, by the end of November, we have completed Kena Upanishad. And then, as we said, in January, we'll pick up Aitareya Upanishad, the one that's the most favorite of Srimad Acharya. That is the most difficult as well. So I hope we'll be able to tackle it. It's a very complicated Upanishad. So we'll make an attempt, and then in the process, we'll all learn about what the Aitareya Upanishad is all about from January. Okay. So on that note, Anandji, do you want to recite Om and we close today's session?
Om.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe. See you next Sunday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.